Hello everyone, it's Kyle with Podcast Architects. We're going to walk through the H6 Zoom recorder in this short video, kind of how to set it up, walk through some settings, and how you're going to use it on shoots. So here it is. So what we have is our power cable and our box. I just have a regular 5-volt power box plugged into USB to USB mini, which is going to serve as a bus on the side of the H6. So from here we have our menu tab and our dial. That's how we're going to control our menu, and then that dial actually pushes in. So with this device we have 4 mic inputs, which are combo. This can be used with XLR cables and your regular 1/4 inch. They stick right in there. And then from there we have our pad, which technically drops your input down to 20 decibels if we needed to do that. I can talk about some certain examples will do that. And then we have our left and right, which we probably won't ever use with a mic capsule. And then we have each input 1, 2, 3, and 4. Stop, play for playback, skip through your different files, and of course the record button. On the other side we have our SD card port. That just pops right out. And a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and put that in there. Like so. Clicks in. Then we have our headphone output, and then that controls the headphone volume. Then we have our power switch in a hold. So just in case if you wanted to start a recording, you can also click this to hold, and what that will do is allow none of the buttons, or if you bump it, it won't affect this. Or if someone accidentally tries to turn it off, it's staying where it is. So let's go ahead and power this on. So how we're going to power it, if for whatever reason we're on the go, this can be powered with 4 AA batteries. For most instances, we will have the luxury of powering it via USB mini. So we'll go ahead and click that in there, like so. And then let's power it on. And we just hold this to the power side till it turns on. Alright, so right now, the preset, I have a 128 gigabyte that's completely clean, so we have 246 hours, 34 minutes, and 26 seconds. And from there, our sample rate is WAV 48 kilohertz by 24 bit. So what that means is 48 kilohertz is the standard for video. So that is definitely what we want. But if for whatever reason this decides to go back to its default, we can get there from the menu button. So we're going to click menu, and then we're going to use this dial to control, and then if you want to select, you push this dial in. And then to go back, you just push menu again. So we're going to scroll down to our record, which is this red circle. Go ahead and push in your dial. Recording format. See, now you can see 48 kilohertz by 24 bit. Alright, and then we're going to select this, record format. And the default, I believe it goes to 44.1 kilohertz by 16 bit. We don't want that because for our editors, that's going to give them a bit of a headache, as they'll have to convert that in post. So to make their lives easier and our lives easier, we're going to go ahead and scroll down to 48 kilohertz, 24 bit. So we got some quality sound. Then we hit menu for return. Menu one more time. So we're back to our bars. Alright, so I'm going to plug in a dynamic microphone. This is typically what we're going to use for our podcast recordings, and we're going to walk through the settings with the H6. So right now we're going to plug in our XLR cable into our dynamic microphone. But before we do that, let's go ahead and plug it into our H6. So right now I'm going to plug it into input 1. Like so, and we're going to arm our microphone. Input 1, that red LED is on. Alrighty, and then I'm going to plug it into our mic. And what we're using today is the Rode Pod Mic. It is their premier podcast microphone, and we use these for a lot of shoots. So, one of my favorites for sure. Alright, so on the H6 we have our pod mic plugged in. And now a comfortable level that this microphone typically operates at is around the 7 to 8 on the actual dial. So I'm going to go ahead and go around there, right in the middle. And then you'll see bars from the microphone, which is right here. So as I speak into this, you can see the bars go up. I'll snap. And a good rule of thumb, especially on this device, is to keep your levels in between the 12 and -6, negative 12 and -6 range, because that will give us not only quality audio, but we don't want our guests to be peaking the entire time or giving us distorted audio. And what that looks like is the LED will start to blink, saying that you're clipping, and you'll see the sound bar start going into the red. See, that LED is acting up, and we are way into the red. But for typical dialogue, 7 to 8, you're pretty golden if your guest has good mic technique, and we'll talk about that later. So from there, we have our mic on, have our mic armed, we have it at the right setting, we did our nice little sound check, and then we're going to go ahead and hit record. And that is what it should look like. It's counting, it's red, and this little red LED is on to show that the recording is in process. So I'm going to do a quick mic check on this, just to give you a recording of what it sounds like. So, test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This is Kyle talking into the H6. Thank you so much. Alright, so quick note, when we're in the field and we start recording, before we do any of that, we want to make sure that us and the guests are on the same page. And what I mean by that is, before we start recording, let them know. Speak up. Like, we are the professionals in the room. They have no idea. They are there to sit down and talk. And if they start doing that and you're trying to scramble to try to record, tell them, hey, let's do a quick sound check. Let's test sound. And once we are ready to go, all right, awesome, then we go ahead and push that record button. And once we push that record button, then tell them to start. I can't stress this enough. When we are done with a recording, all of us, the guests, everyone, make sure they do not move a muscle, because we want to make sure that we hit stop record on everything so we can safely get them out and we have all of our footage. Worst thing that has happened so far is we said everything is done and a wire is yanked out and we lose footage. Or vice versa, we just didn't push stop and we did the yanking ourselves. So for the H6, you can see that this is still recording. Now we're done. Let's go ahead and hit that stop button. Bam. Now we have our recording. And then from there, you can safely go ahead and turn it off. And there you go. So another cool thing about the H6 is that it can actually power condenser microphones. And these microphones use 48 volts. Unlike the dynamic microphones that will have power straight from an XLR cable, we can have that extra boost with the H6 recorder. So let's go ahead and walk through those settings right now. So I'm going to plug in the condenser microphone straight from an XLR cable to our H6 into input 1. And then as you can see on the H6 itself, I have no sound. I have nothing. So, as I said before, we need to provide phantom power or 48 volts to this microphone. So, how we do that, we will go to our menu settings. And we are going to focus. I'm going to go down to input and output. Go ahead and select that menu. Go down to phantom. And then on and off. Let's go ahead and click on. And then since we are in input 1, we're going to go ahead and click track 1. And we're going to turn that on. So a good indicator, which is awesome, is that when we go back to the menu, you'll see a small lightning bolt where the track is. See, on track 1, we have that small lightning bolt enabled. So from there, let's go ahead and amp up our volume. And we got bars. We do have sound. So that is how you hook up a condenser microphone to the H6. So quick note, and very important note, is once we're done shooting with the condenser microphone And if we need to switch back to a dynamic microphone, we're going to have to turn off the phantom power. Because if we plug in a, basically hot mic with 48 volts running through it into a dynamic, we are going to run the risk of burning out this microphone. So let's go ahead and walk through those settings. So on track 1, we have phantom power enabled. It also shows it right here, 48 volts. We're going to go ahead and go to our menu. Scroll down to input output, select it, go back, go to phantom, on off. We had it on track 1. Let's turn that off. And then menu return, menu. Alright, so now we can safely plug in our dynamic microphone.